Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk and back again with another fun fold, fancy fold card. I don't know what this one's called, double flap card kind of thing. I just thought it was really fun, and when I was playing around with these lovely papers that you get in the frosted gingerbread DSP, I just thought it suited this perfectly. So it's another sort of no stamping card, as in I haven't stamped on this yet, but it could easily add just whatever sentiment you want. The papers are these ones here, which have these lovely frosted iced cookies on them and stuff, sweets. Really cute kind of Christmas, with all sorts of icing, double-sided as always, 6x6. And these images, there are dies that cut these out and an accompanying stamp set. I've just used the papers for this, and I haven't yet stamped, so but you can easily obviously add an image. But you see there's some lovely background ones, generic ones, but I love these ones with cinnamon side with the white icing. I think it's really pretty. I think these lend themselves to being cut out. I'm not sure I'd use that as a background paper, but there is this bauble shape as well. You see there, baubles, then the stuff peppermint kisses, are they? Peppermint candies, as you call them in the States. Lovely stripes, and some more icing and patterns as well. So really useful Christmas themed images in there. And if you like fussy cutting, this is a great one. And if not, then you could stamp and die cut the images as well. But basically what you've got is you've got a card here with a little flap. Open up and there's an image, so that's going to obviously be on display. Open it up again for another one, and then you open up and then you've got a panel for you to add your sentiment to as well. And I just thought it was a little bit of fun to kind of almost like a flip-flap kind of card. And obviously you could pop a stamped image in there, and then a sentiment on the middle there, or used as a note card. So so to start off with, you're going to be fussy cutting some images out. So I thought I'd go with one of these bell images. So all I'm doing is I'm just trimming, leaving a little bit of a white edge around there, and just kind of just keeping it there. And say the images, I have fussy cut them all. Some are easier than others. This one obviously is one of the easier ones to do. Those who don't fussy cut, I tend to hold my scissors and move the paper a little bit. That seems to give us sort of a smoother finish to the fussy cutting. So that one's really easy. Then all I'm going to do is just adhere that to a bit of, in this instance, early espresso. You don't have to do this. I quite like the stuff extra shadow it gives. You could ink around the edge if you wanted instead. And I say, you know, if you're using the dies, obviously that's not going to be so much of an issue. So, but again, you know, you don't have to be massively accurate on these. She says, having to adjust my glasses. It's probably the worst one to do it on, is this really dark cardstock. But early espresso is such a lovely colour, and I love that in these images you've kind of got bits where the gingerbread has gone a little bit dark, you know, almost caught. You know, we've all had those moments. I'm sure any of you bakers out there when things have just gone a little bit. So that just gives it a little bit more definition. So there's one without and there's one with, just to give you, say, just a little bit more definition. So I've done the same with a couple of the snowflake images. I've just cut them out, fussy cut them, added them to the early espresso, and then fussy cut. So that's kind of the sort of main preparation. I'm going to just grab the one of the images as well, and let's get started. So I thought my next one, I'd use slightly different colours, see how that works out. So with this one, although it's not one of the colours listed, I've actually used some soft suede on that, and again in the brown tones. But this time I thought we'd go for something sort of slightly different. So I thought we could do our card base perhaps in cinnamon cider. she says. There it is. And you're actually going to, it uses slightly more than half a sheet. So I'm actually going to cut it on the short edge at 14.5. And then cut it at 25 centimetres. Like so. Okay. Then you're going to score at 10.5. Actually just slightly under it, so 10.4 at 21 as well, and that's going to give us our card base. You then want a piece for the flap, which I've already cut, so this is 15 by 7.5, and you're going to just score that at 7.5 to make a little mini sort of card. Then I sort of added some layers for these. So this one, when I did it with sort of slightly smaller measurements, but you can really please yourself. On this one, I'll do it with 0.5 centimetre increments. So if the front is 7.5 by 7.5, we can go to 7 by 7, or I say 7.3, it's probably 7.2, 7.2 by 7.2. And then the DSP to go on the front of that. We can just go sort of 7 by 7. Like so. So that's going to give us, so that, pop it on that red, we'll just bring out those red dots and just add a bit of contrast for the front there. That's going to be our layers. Then on here I've added a layer on the inside. So again, you could repeat with the same colour, or say with this one, just do again another layer that's 7.2 by 7.2. So that's for our next layer for the inside of that. And then for the bottom of the card on the inside, I've just trimmed these little bits off the edge, and I sort of trimmed them down, almost sort of taking 1 millimetre almost off, and then I've just kind of gone in as well, and that just gives a nice little strip. It's a bit like the strips you used to take off some of the 12 by 12 papers, to give you a bit of an interest as well. So we're starting to build up our panels, and the only bit left I've got to do here is for the front here, and I've made this one slightly smaller. But again, I'll just go for 7 by 7 in this instance. And let's have a look for my DSP. Do you know what? I might actually go for this one here. 7 by 7, and so we'll go for kind of 6.7 by 6.7. There we go, like so. So really kind of Christmassy. So I think we're almost there. All we need to do now is cut the panel for the front of the card. So the front of the card is 10.5, or sort of just under. So you want this at sort of 10 centimetres. If it's directional, cut it in that direction first, and then with with this piece, you want to trim it down to, I think it's 4 centimetres. Let's just double check that. 3.5 centimetres rather, yeah. So that's 4. So you want this piece trimmed down to 3.5 first. And then both of these pieces are going to come down to 14 centimetres. So 14 and 14. I will put the measurements on my blog. I know there's lots of sort of little bits here, so I'll pop those onto my blog if you need them. And the link for that is in the video description. If you just click on the down arrow, you'll find the link for that. So that's for the very front of our card, and that's for the inner panel. So with our card, just grab the bone folder. At least you would grab a bone folder if it was to hand. There we go. And I say, I deliberately scored that just under the 10.5 because you want to leave enough space for that flap to be able to attach on here and still flip over. So first things first, we want to get our DSP onto our card. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a layer onto this, a contrast layer to pick up the card. Add a bit of contrast, you know, some early espresso or something. But I think there are so many layers on here. The difficulty is if you added another layer, it might just make it a little difficult to close. So, whilst you could add one, I personally wouldn't. So that's our 14 by 3.5 centimetre strip. So you can see our card is starting to take shape. We've then got a layer for the inside, which is another 10 by 14. And I'm going to add that little strip to the very bottom. And at this point you would also add your greeting or your sentiment to the inside. I've gone slightly over that, and the reason for that is I want to kind of centre it. So you see there I've got it, I did have it. So I've got a green one either end that sort of just hangs over slightly. And then you can just come in and trim that from behind. Complete with pin. And again, I'm just using my Stampin' Seal here. Really good. Because of the flat layers, seal is absolutely perfect for this. So we add that to the centre, and you can see just by adding that little strip, it just livens up the inside of your card. So now we come on to our other layers. So these I'm just going to pop on there. And the big thing, and this is one of the reasons I joined Stampin' Up, is the coordination. The fact that your DSP and your cardstock is a perfect, you know that if you use, if it's got real red in it, your DSP's got real red, it's going to look great. Okay. And everything just coordinates so well. Okay. And this is my piece for the front as well. That's kind of like hidden a little bit. And again, I've kept this of board, so on the inches it'll be an 8, so it'll be slightly bigger, but 2 or 3 millimetres I find usually gives quite a nice border. So now we're almost at the construction point. What I'm going to do is pop my bell onto here, and I'm just going to adhere that flat, and I have used the one with the early espresso, even though it gives it a little bit more bulk. Now this is the time when I am going to use my use my wet glue to add a bit of wriggle room. So I'm basically going to centre this card, and I'm not precise about it, I'll be honest with you. What I'm going to do is just add some glue roughly to where that centre is, but I'm going to add it on this panel here. And there's enough movement there for me to just line that up. Like so. Now if you wanted to, obviously you could get your ruler out and measure that. I can use my grid paper, that's sort of about 1.5. That's about the same, yeah. It's close enough that I'm not going to worry about it. So there we have, almost there with our card. I'm going to grab some dimensionals. Remember, they're called dimensionals because they add a nice bit of lift to it, a bit of dimension to our card. And by adding these layers, you get the kind of texture as well. And holding this card, I'm lining this up with the centre there, and I'm just coming in slightly from the edge as well. So that's adding a nice pop of colour as a contrast behind, and that flap then just covers it over. And then I'm going to pop dimensionals onto here. And I don't want to come all the way to the top because this is going to sit proud. So I'm going to have another one just in the middle there. And by adding the card to the back of these, it just finishes it off nicely as well. So there's my one cookie. And the second one, I'm going to sort of just overlap it slightly. So I'm going to pop my dimensionals slightly more in the middle of this one. Got an extra on there. But I'm not going to come quite to the top because I want that to just sit nicely. So just 3 or 4 dimensionals on there, like so. So there we have a pair of what I call a double flap card. I don't know. I don't think I've seen one. I may have seen one. I might have just picked up the idea somewhere. It's a variation really on lots of cards that are there with those extra flaps that you can add your fun to. I've forgotten to add my other one. Where is it? So again, add your cookie or my Christmas tree that I had, which I'd already cut out ready. Okay, add your second image onto the middle there. Let's imagine I've added my bell, and there we go. So you've got lots of fun images, panels that you could add extra things on, ready to go. So if you'd like to purchase this frosted gingerbread DSP or any of the other products I've used, and the cardstock or anything else, pop along to my shop at heidismith.stampinup.net, and the links to everything are actually in the description bar below this video. Do come back and see me again soon, and please hit the subscribe button, it really does help. And thanks for watching. Bye now.